everybody, sorry for the delay in the chapters. I got pretty sick over the last week, the flu, so I didn't really do much anything, let alone record. But I'm getting back into it, and with the holidays, it's going to be kind of hard to start recording or to get a lot of these chapters done, but I'm going to do my best to keep it on a consistent schedule. So, without further ado, Chapter 14 of Emperor of Continia. The sun was just beginning to show its bright face over the eastern horizon as we made our way down a lit path among the giant blue trees. The further away from the city we got, the bigger we became. All except Quinnis, that is. When the torches were no longer lighting the path, we found ourselves at our normal height. Rogart stood massive in the night sky, with me a little more than a head shorter, and Valara stood a head shorter than me. And then there was Quinnis, who was no more than 1 foot tall, hunched over. Rogart reached down and picked up the little Margastrat and put him in his pack.
Hey, I'm not a piece of food that you can just stick in your pack,
Quinnis yelled.
Would you rather run the day and a half to our location?
Rogart said, rather impatient with the little wizard.
Oh, look, it's rather cozy in here. Yes, this will do nicely. Thank you, good sir.
Rogart again rolled his eyes and continued down the path with Valaris and me right behind him. As we walked, the sun rose higher and higher into the sky, sending beams of light through the canopy of the trees where it could, giving the whole forest a magical feel to it. Rogart stopped dead in his tracks and waited, listening for something, a concerned look in his eyes.
Do you feel it, Valaris?
He said without looking back.
Yes, I hear it as well. I think they are coming right for us. We need to get to higher ground fast,
she said, starting off to the east.
I agree,
Rogart said, looking around.
Over there. See where those two trees are close together? It should be easy enough to climb. We can try and make it to those low branches up there.
Hurry! They are coming! Move, move, move!
Valaris yelled, just as I started feeling the ground rumble. Rogart took off to the two trees he pointed to, about 200 yards to the west. Valaris took off after Rogart, quickly gaining on him, and just as fast passing him. I was right on Rogart's heels, moving as fast as I could. The rumble came closer. 150 yards? 100 yards? Just then a massive crashing sound came from behind us. I quickly looked over my shoulder to see what had Rogart and Valaris so scared, only to find that 50 or more war mounts in full charge straight for us. I quickly passed Rogart and soon caught up to Valaris, who was just starting to climb the trees. I was near the branches when I realized that Rogart had just started his climb up the trees with the war mounts no more than 50 yards behind him and closing fast.
Rogart, hurry! They are right behind you,
I yelled, trying to get him to climb faster. At the rate that he was going to get killed for sure.
What is all the yelling about?
Quinnis said, poking his head out of the pack.
Whoa!
Was all he said when he saw the giant beast stampeding straight for us.
We just started, and already I had to save your big butt.
Quinnis quickly shot his hands out towards the great beast just as they got within a few feet from him. Something shot out from his fingertips, resembling a very clear water, rippling out and spreading out to surround the giant stampeding animals. The war mounts were suddenly stuck in extreme slow motion. It took about a minute for 1 foot to fall to the ground and another to rise that same foot again.
Keep climbing, Rogart. I can't hold this all day,
Quinnis yelled in a stressed voice, the wave continuing to pour from his fingertips. When Rogart got to the top, Quinnis let go of the spell. The giant beasts were again moving at full speed. Then the one thing we didn't expect to happen did. They hit the tree we were in dead on and continued going around. War mount after war mount passed below in a thundering stampede that shook the ground in our eardrums, each animal bumping into the tree. The tree gave a violent shake and began to fall as the last beast passed below us. Valaris screamed. I grabbed onto the tree for dear life, and Rogart just mumbled as the tree began its descent to the ground far below. Quinnis, on the other hand, just rolled his good eye along with the bad one, and again shot his hands out from the pack. This time, a thick blue substance shot from his fingertips, piling up on the ground in a large glob of blue liquid.
Jump into the pool,
he yelled, and took a swan dive from Rogart's pack. The three of us didn't hesitate and jumped straight into the glob of blue liquid just before the tree landed with a mighty crash. When I hit the glob, it felt like jumping into a tub of gelatin. Quinnis crawled out of the mess and just shook his head at us, while we desperately tried to free ourselves from the goop. He reached a finger out to the pile of gelatin, and the whole thing turned to water, soaking the ground where we landed.
Now I see why Verneris asked me to come along. You all would have been dead after half a day. How you made it all this way is beyond me,
Quinnis said, brushing the dirt off his robes. Rogart looked at him with new respect and resentment.
Get back in the pack. We have a long way to go. It's not even high noon, and we still are not near the edge of the forest.
Quinnis climbed up to Rogart and into his pack, closing it behind him, just as Verneris did when he got upset or hurt.
Thank you,
is all Rogart said as he began to walk back to the trail. The muffled voice of the old Margastrat came from the pack.
Welcome.
The forest and all of its inhabitants made me feel very small. It still struck me as funny that the Margastrat chose this location as our home. Hey, Quinnis, I said, poking the pack.
Go away.
His muffled voice came from deep within the pack. Come on. I just want to ask you a question about your home, I said, still poking the pack. His little gray bearded face poked out from the pack.
What is it?
Why did your people choose this forest for its home? Was it an ego thing? Rogart laughed at my question as he continued to walk down the path.
For your information, this forest was not here when my people started to build our great city. This whole area was a huge grassy field with nothing more than a small stream flowing through it. After hundreds of years of concentrated magic caused by our practices, these giant trees sprouted from the earth and grew to the very top of the tallest towers. How they turned blue? Well, I have no idea. The war mounts also are a product of our magic,
He said smugly.
Now, if that is all, I need to get some rest. I am not quite as young as you are and need my rest.
With that, he slid back down into Brogart's pack, mumbling something about ignorance of youth.
The Margastrat only claim to be the cause of the war mounts and trees. No one knows for sure how they came to be. Some even say that your people had a part to play in its creation,
Rogart said in a low voice as I came up next to the large knight.
Some also say that the many races of Continia are embarrassed by the size of these small people, so they got together and created this forest to hide them from view. They also say it was the other way around. The Margastrat preferred to be isolated from the outside world, so they created this forest to hide them from view. My point is, no one knows for sure how this forest came to be.
Rogart continued.
Just that it's not a natural forest.
Valaris just shrugged.
In my opinion, it was the idea that we decided to hide them out of embarrassment,
That would be the opinion of an elf.
Said the muffled voice in the pack. Valaris took an arrow from her quiver and poked the pack.
Ouch! What in the world possessed you to do that, you crazy elf?
Quinnis yelled.
The village Tenish is about an hour down the road. We will stop there for mid-mill, then head southeast towards Mount Nordness. The only problem with Tenish is the fact it doesn't have the size magic that the Tower City does, so we will be quite large to the whole village. There's a place they built just for travelers our size where we can rest.
Rogart said, eyes firmly planted on the road ahead. What is it, Rogart? I asked, noticing his intense gaze.
This is the territory of the cats. We are close to their hunting grounds. They are creatures we do not want to catch us by surprise. Keep your eyes and your ears open,
He said in a hushed voice. Quinnis's little head poked out from the pack, scanning the area behind Rogart.
I hate those things. They like to play with my people before they eat them. Besides, they are lightning fast and agile with a wicked sense of humor.
He said with a little shiver. Wait a sec, you mean to tell me there is actually a creature here that I know about? We have cats where I come from. They shouldn't be that bad at all, I said with a who cares tone in my voice. Rogart looked at me.
I don't think we're talking about the same cats here. Just be quiet, and hopefully we won't be able to find out if you are talking about the same cats.
For some reason, I suddenly didn't think that we were talking about the same animal. A little further down the road, I noticed a slight rustling in the bushes next to me. I don't know if it was stupidity or just curiosity. You know what they say, curiosity killed the cat? But I peeked into the bush anyway. Lo and behold, the cutest and tiniest cat I had ever seen sat there twitching his tail and looking at me with big blue eyes. It looked just like a miniature kitten with soft white fur and huge blue eyes. From just behind came Rogart's voice.
What is it, John?
It's the tiniest white kitten I have ever seen, I said, cooing at the little bugger. Rogart looked in the same bush and quickly grabbed me away from it.
That's no kitten, that's a cat. Run, quick!
Rogart said, taking off at a dead run down the trail with Valaris and Quinnis poking his head out of the pack. Just as they took off, the little kitten came up next to me purring. I just couldn't see why they were running like their lives were at stake or something. It was just the little guy coming to say hello and be loved. I figured there was no harm in it, so I reached down to pet the little kitten. It looked less than 4 inches tall. When my hand got close to the kitten, it backed up a bit and gave a little meow, then jumped up and bit into my finger, not letting go.
Ouch!
Was all I said as I tried to beat the little devil off my finger. Just then I felt something land on my neck and start to bite and scratch. Unnoticed, about 50 of the little demons appeared out of nowhere, growling in the low way cats do when threatened. I slowly backed away from the advancing crowd of midget cats when a misty gust of wind came whooshing at the cats with such a force that literally blew the little beast down the path.
Run, John!
Rogart's voice bellowed. I took off after Rogart and Valaris with the first cat stuck on my finger as blood gushed down my hand, and the second one still gnawing at the back of my neck. I could feel a warm fluid running down my neck and pain all over. I glanced behind me for a second and saw not only the 50, but what looked like to be about 3 times that amount bouncing off trees and rocks in hot pursuit of their next meal. I ran even faster. Quinnis was sticking out of Rogart's pack, blasting them with everything he had. It barely slowed the cats behind us. I felt a sharp blast of pain in my right calf, letting out a yell of agony, but kept running. Rogart looked back for a second, quickly hurried his pace.
Faster! We're almost at the village. They'll be able to help us. Almost there,
he said, not risking another look back. I could hear the hundreds of low-pitched growls not far behind me. The pain in my finger, neck, and right leg grew intense. I began to get very weak and tired very fast. That was not a good sign. Normally I could run twice this distance without getting too tired. Another sharp pain shot out, this time from my left shoulder. I could hear the low-pitched growl very clearly. The little monster was so close to my ear. I tried to pull them off as I ran, but they were already too attached to my skin to get off without pulling more skin off with them. I watched as Rogart Valaris gained ground ahead of me. I saw very tiny plumes of smoke in their near distance. Rogart was yelling something at the village, but I couldn't quite make out what he was yelling or to whom. All I knew was my footing gave out from underneath me. I fell face first into the dirt with only enough time to yell a garbled cry for help before I blacked out. Immense pain followed the blackout. Pain emerged from every section of my body. It felt like my body had erupted in flames from head to toe. After that, I felt or heard nothing. Just blackness and silence. Nothing more, nothing less. After a while, this blackness, I had begun to wonder if I was resting in the bellies of hundreds of little demon cats. Sadness began to make its way into my very soul with the thought of never being able to go back to Continia, or my Valaris, my home and love. I mourned in the blackness for what felt like many hours before a bright white light appeared in the distance. The light grew brighter and brighter. I started to yell at it to go away. I wasn't ready for death yet. I wanted to stay and continue with my vow and my new friends, at least until I knew that everyone was safe and away from harm. A soft and gentle yet familiar voice came to me.
Do not despair, my son. Your time has not yet come.
You are not dead, but very much alive. I looked into the light, trying to see who was speaking to me. There stood my mother in her long flowing gown, smiling down at me.
You are doing very well on your journey, my son. But you need to pay better attention to Rogart next time he tells you to do something. He knows best about the many dangers of the untamed lands of Continia, she scolded.
Yes, mother, came my voice from the distance. It was an amazing feeling to be actually scolded by my real mother. It brought a strange joy to my heart. I was not weird, just deprived. It brought much sadness and yet much happiness to me to see her standing there before me. I miss you, Mom. I never knew you, yet I miss you and Father very much. My voice again came from the distance.
We miss you too, my son. Your father and I have been watching you since the beginning, and we will continue to watch you even through the very difficult times that lay ahead of you. My son, there is great danger building very close to you. Be warned, it is time for you to awake, she said softly.
No, Mother, I don't want to wake yet. I want to talk with you more, I said, sounding like a little boy not wanting to leave.
I want to talk to you as well, my son. But we will have a lot of time for that in the distant future. Your wounds are nearly healed. It is time for you to awake. Your mate waits by your side, unmoving these last 3 days. She misses you, my son. Go to her.
Has it really been 3 days? I asked, my voice sounding much closer this time. When I looked up, my mother was gone, and there sat Valaris beside my bed asleep. Her face looked like she had been crying and full of worry. The pain all over my body came rushing back. It felt like someone had taken a hot red poker and poked me all over my body, then took a knife, cut my finger off, and proceeded to cut the back of my neck, right leg, and shoulder. I was under thick quilts and surrounded by many big and soft pillows. I had bandages all over me, some still slightly soaked in blood. I was lying in a roughly made blue wooden bed. The mattress was stuffed with some sort of soft material, as was the pillow. My bed was in the middle of a small clearing in the center of some thick bushes with little orange flowers blooming all over their fine green leaves. The aroma of the flowers filled the air all around my bed. There was a single chair to my left side that was currently occupied by a sleeping Valaris, holding her love-scent flower tightly to her chest. Judging by the brightness of the day, I assumed it was early morning. The sun must have been up for no more than an hour. Valaris began to stir in her sleep. Slowly she opened her eyes and glanced at the flower she was holding. A look of great relief spread across her beautiful face as she turned around and saw me wide awake and apparently doing well.
Oh, John, the flower had been slowly dying the last 2.5 days. The healer said you didn't have a good chance due to the wounds you suffered,
she said, tears forming in her eyes.
Never mind that. I thank the Great One you are okay,
she said as she got up and began kissing me over and over again. When she was finally finished, I enjoyed it very much, mind you, she sat down on the bed next to me, giving me a look of pity.
What did your mother have to say? Is she well? Is she the reason you are well now?
One question at a time, please, my love. But yeah, she's doing well. She's in paradise, after all. As for the reason why I am well now, I can only assume it's because I have not yet fulfilled my purpose. She sends her love to you. By the way, how did you know I was dreaming of my mother? She leaned in close to me and gave me another quick kiss.
You talk in your sleep.
An hour later, Rogart came into the clearing with a little Margastrat dressed in stained white robes on his shoulder. He looked to be in his later years, much like Quintus. Rogart looked at me, gave me a happy, surprised look.
Finally awake! Decided to stop being lazy and get on with the journey now,
he said, smiling.
Glad to see you're awake and looking much better, John.
Me too.
Me too,
the little man said as he hopped down from Rogart's shoulder onto my bed.
Yes. You're looking much better indeed, young man,
he said, looking into my eyes with the glowing finger. He then proceeded to check my many wounds.
Most of your wounds have healed overnight, except of course the 3 bad ones. that nearly killed you. It'll take a bit longer to heal, I'm afraid. Now I can take care of the missing finger if you like.
I looked down at what used to be my right hand's first finger. It was nothing more than a stump. How are you going to fix this? I asked, not really believing the little man. Rogar grabbed my hand and pulled a metal gauntlet from his pack. The gauntlet was a bright chrome color with tiny spikes along the knuckles and a large single diamond embedded in the back of the hand. Rogar gently slipped the gauntlet onto my hand. It became obvious right away that the weapon was much too large for my hand. But like everything else in this strange land, you shouldn't take things for what they appear to be. Before my eyes, the gauntlet shrank to fit my hand perfectly. It fit so well, and was so light that I could hardly tell I was wearing anything at all. The diamond lit up for a second, and then dimmed to a low glow. How is this supposed to fix my finger? I asked, still unsure of this strange weapon.
Try moving your finger, as well as the rest of your hand. Your people made this gauntlet, so I'm not too sure what its purpose is or what it does, but if legend is true about the man who wore it, we can expect great things to come from it. And you,
Rogar said, a look of excitement in his eyes. Sure enough, I was able to move my finger as if it was still there and whole. Who did this gauntlet belong to before me, Rogar? For some reason, I already knew what he was going to say.
I made a trip back to Tower City because I remembered a legend about a powerful weapon a man wielded before his death. That man was your father. I had to see if they still kept the legendary weapon that is almost as famous as the sword you now wear. To my surprise, Vernaris found it protected by a heavy enchantment in his treasury. He was happy to give it back to its rightful owner, as he put it.
Thank you for going back to get this for me, Rogart. It means a lot, I said, staring at the gauntlet under a new light.
You're welcome, John. It was the least I could do. Besides, there won't be a threat from those cats for a long time to come, after what hit them when they attacked you.
What did happen, by the way? I asked, cringing in sudden pain when I sat up.
All I remember hearing is a strange garbled cry coming from your direction. When I turned around, all I saw was hundreds of cats attacking what I assumed was you under that heat. Quintus called to the guard to help, and after only a second or two, about 10 guards came up, casting the strongest spells they could, along with Quintus. Valaris and I were shooting as many arrows as we could, trying to get them off of you without us getting too close to get their attention or hitting you. Valaris would have dove head first into the mass of cats if I hadn't stopped her. Finally, every guard in the city gathered together and threw a mighty wind spell, knocking you and all those cats high into the air. We found your almost dead body in a tree no more than 100 yards or so from where the attack took place. We found dead cats as far as the Tower City. You were nearly gone when we got you back to the village. This clearing you're in is surrounded by a special bush that seems to know when a person is injured beyond normal help. It then opens these little flowers that have a very special healing property. So they tell me anyway.
Rogar took a deep breath.
Now it looks like you're going to get better. Valaris has not left your side for a better part of 3 days now. Unfortunately, time is running thin, and we need to get you back on your feet.
Well, Rogar, you're in luck. I'm feeling 100% better with every minute, I said, trying to get out of bed. The little white-robed Margastrap jumped onto my lap and pushed me back down onto the bed.
I don't think so. You need to rest one more day,
he said, looking very sternly at me.
Everyone out. Let this poor man sleep some more. I'll be back in a few hours to change your bandages and cast a rapid healing spell on you.
Valaris just sat there unmoving as everyone began to leave the clearing. The Margaret looked at her and motioned for her to follow.
You'll never get any sleep with the likes of you in his room.
Valaris looked at me. Go on, Val. I'll be fine. I'll be here when I wake up, I think, I said, giving her a smile. When everyone left the clearing, I just lay back and took in the sweet fragrance of the little orange flowers. That is chapter 14, and I am Joe the Wigit, and I am reading Emperor of Continia, Continia. You can find these books on Amazon by either searching Emperor of Continia or the Dromon Saga, Dromon. Thank you for listening, everybody.